So good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you all today to our 6th symposium on economic policy. This symposium series is being organized by the Institute of Financial Economics, and the IFE, previously known as the Institute of Money and Banking, was founded in 1985 thanks to the efforts of Dr. Makdisi and 5 leading banks. Those banks are Audi, BLF, Blum, Biblos, and the Crédit Libanais. This particular event is in collaboration with the UNESCO and is entitled Economic Implications of Global Oil Market Transformations. We have 2 speakers with us. I'm going to introduce the first speaker. Dr. Bassam Fattouh is the director of the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies, and he's a professor at the School of Oriental and African Studies, University of London. He specializes in international oil pricing systems, OPEC, the dynamics of markets and oil prices, energy pricing reforms, and the economics of Middle East oil exporting countries. He has published a variety of articles on oil and gas topics, and his publications have appeared in academic and professional journals. Dr. Fattouh served as a member of an independent expert group established to provide recommendations to the 12th International Energy Forum, ministerial meeting for strengthening the architecture of the producer-consumer dialogue through the IEF. He also acts as an advisor to governments and industry and is a regular speaker at international conferences. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Fattouh. Thank you.
First of all, it's really a great pleasure to be here at the American University of Beirut. I graduated in 1995, so it took 23 years to be invited back. So
Thanks to
I think maybe you're, yeah. Actually, no, it was Professor Khalaf, Nadim Khalaf.
Graduated?
Yeah. Yeah. I graduated in 1995. No, I didn't know. You didn't accept me, actually. You know, I wasn't good enough at that time. But well, it's good, you know, because I got accepted in London and in Oxford now. So, you know, لا تكرهوا شيء لعله خير. So what I'm planning to do today is, the title of my talk is Structural Transformation in the Oil Market, and what are some of the implications for the oil exporting countries, of course, with the focus on the Middle East. So I'm going to be talking more about the long-term issues rather than the short-term issues. And the structure of the presentation is basically as follows. So in the first part, I'm going to discuss, you know, what are the main structural transformation that we are seeing in the global oil markets, both on the demand side and on the supply side. In the last few years, we have seen really the structural transformations, and those are likely to be enduring with us for a long time. And then I'm going to discuss what are the short-term challenges which are facing the oil exporting countries, particularly on the GCC, and how they are adjusting to the low price environment. And I'm going to focus particularly on the energy pricing reforms, because I think that's actually one of the most interesting parts of how they are reforming their energy prices. But then I'm going to talk about the long-term challenges, and particularly the challenge of diversification. At times, when a few years ago everyone was concerned about scarcity, now everyone talks about abundance of resources. That's either in oil or in gas or in coal, especially in a world where demand is considered to be constrained. And then I'm going to talk about the social cost of producing oil, and you know, to me is actually this is one of the most important determinant of oil prices, is the ability of these oil exporting countries to adjust their economies to the global energy transition. And after that, I'm going to draw my conclusions. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to stand up because I feel more comfortable, and I can see also the slides. So I hope it's okay. Okay, so let's start with one of the major structural transformation that we are seeing in the oil market, and that is basically related on the demand side. So if you look at the most recent data, oil demand growth has been performing quite well. In 2015, 2016, 2017, oil demand has been growing well above its historical average. It has been growing by more than 1.5 million barrels per day. Historically, oil demand grows by around 1.2 million barrels per day, but recently we have seen oil demand growing by 1.5, 1.6. In 2015, it grew by 1.8 million barrels per day. What is quite interesting in this cycle is that since 2015, as a result of the low oil prices, we're seeing this growth not only in non-OECD economies, but also in OECD economies. And this is very significant because in 2007, 2008, many people believed that oil demand has peaked in the OECD, particularly in the US, gasoline demand. But as a result of low oil prices, we've seen the recovery in oil demand. Having said that, despite the fact that oil demand growth has been performing extremely well, looking ahead, the growth prospects for oil demand are increasingly uncertain. If you look at the IEA Sustainable Development Scenario, in order for the world to meet the 2-degree target, oil demand needs to decline, and it needs to decline quite fast, especially after 2030. And most of this decline is going to come from the transport sector. There are a few studies which have come recently, which as a result, they argue that as a result of the electrification of the vehicle fleet, we're likely to see oil demand reaching a peak, and then after that, we're going to see a very sharp decline. So this is a study which has been done in the US, which shows that, okay, we're going to continue to see oil demand, but at some point, this oil demand is going to start declining. And once it does that, it's going to decline very, very fast.
I just have a quick exciting announcement to make. So please save the dates, December 6 and 7, 2018. We're having a joint conference with the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies. We'll be sending you more details in the near future, but the conference is about energy market transformations in the MENA region. Okay, so now Ms. Radia Sidawi, she's the Chief of the Energy Section in the Sustainable Development Policies Division of UNESCO. She has extensive experience in research, energy policy advice, energy modeling. She has held several senior positions before this position in various countries. Ms. Sidawi holds a Bachelor of Industrial Engineering, Master's in Petroleum Economics, and a Master's degree in Business Administration from the UK. And she's a member of the Algerian Association for Renewable Energies and the Algerian Gas Association, as well as the Arab Energy Club. So please help me in welcoming Ms. Radia.
Thanks, Leila, for the invitation, and thanks for coordinating the symposium. I would say, I don't know if we call it a small meeting. And when I knew that Bassam is coming, I couldn't miss the opportunity to speak when my old friend is here, and especially especially that usually I speak about the oil and gas market, and this is the most fascinating, I would say, area where I find myself much better, and I would say that it's the most fascinating business to work in. But given, I will start first from the last point addressed by Bassam, and he well highlighted very good conclusions in his speech, starting from the transformation of the energy system, and his focus basically starting from the global picture and going forward to look into the GCC basically in Saudi. But given that I'm currently focusing on the Arab countries, so I would like first, I would say, to focus on the Arab perspective and how the Arab region, whether from oil and gas producing countries or consuming countries, are dealing with this transformation. Bear in mind that the fossil fuel in general will remain for a decade, and well highlighted by Dr. Walid. We're talking about today for transformation for the future. It's not 2030, it's more than beyond, because we are talking about beyond 2050, and this is the transformation that we are looking for. For this, I will first start with the context, and some of the points were already highlighted by Bassam, where we're looking from the international energy transformation, where we see the slowing energy demand, and we have seen lately the certain decoupling of the GDP growth in many countries of the world. But more importantly, what we have seen, and as highlighted in the result, that the return of the energy prices volatility, it's not anymore just question of market adjustment in the short term. It's really a long-term perspective, where it's impacted heavily the investment, the capital investment, and basically since 2014. We see as well the major consumer, or let's say the center of the energy, China, and its economic transition. But we see also China not only for the oil and gas, but also for all the sources of energies. We see as well the rapid growth of shale, and we see that mainly from the US, and how we can easily now produce from certain basin, we can produce at a very low price compared to what we considered. And we see that how technology breakthrough really impacted the global landscape of the energy markets, not only in the oil market, but oil and gas and the energy in general. There was as well, and starting from 2015, after the Paris Agreement, when there was a strengthening of the climate policy, and especially when there was endorsement by most countries of the Paris Agreement. And basically, also this was, whether from the Arab countries, for example, it's much on the adaptation, but from producer perspective, it's also looking for the co-benefits. There was as well highlighted that electricity is not anymore just a final consumption that we see in the power generation, but there was an increase of the electricity demand, and we will see it in the coming decades for the electric vehicle, and basically for in China and India. And we started already seeing that in some of the Arab countries as well. And we see a real shifting in terms of the energy security, as well highlighted by Bassam, where we see that traditional producer-consumer dynamic is not anymore the same. And that's why the Arab region, why talking about the Arab region, I will give certain figures to put it in context, and why the Arab region is not only the Middle East, it's all oil and gas producing countries, whether they are in North Africa and the GCC, but also those coming forwards in, we'll talk about Lebanon, where we are here today.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Radia.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bassam.